Welcome back to the final video in the BC Overlanding series, where we woke up at our lakeside campsite after a thunderstorm rolled through the night. Today, we head east, through the Rogers Pass and back into the prairies. While we might not be hitting any crazy off-road trails today, we're going through the amazing Rocky Mountains, where we go through some mountain towns and explore the forest filled with giant cedars, before going through the highest point on the Trans-Canada Highway, and through a few of Canada's beautiful national parks before we end up back in the prairies. Join us as we meander our way home through the Canadian Rockies. What is up, and welcome back everyone to the fifth and final day of this overlanding / off-roading adventure. Today, not too much with regards to trails, but we are in this wonderful camp spot where I think I'm going to take the opportunity that we're so close to a pretty clear lake that I'm going to go for a swim, and then I think we're going to kind of explore our way back home. So we are, as I said, 600 kilometers away, so we are quite far away, and the Forster's got a lot of views. If you haven't seen the Forster getting its views in, going off-road into some pretty sweet trails, definitely recommend checking those out before you check this one out, because we got some really fun stuff that really pushed this Forster to its, well, I think its absolute limits, but who knows, we can maybe go farther. So without further ado, let's kind of pack up and then get ready for a swim. And well, as it turns out, the storm that came through the night before really mixed up the water, because it was cold. Like, really cold. And after a very brief swim in the cold lake, we got the tent all packed up, so it's time to hit the road and get out of here. And away we went. With the Forester pointing east, we hit the Forest Service Road and headed towards civilization. Today was going to be just about 5 hours of driving, but I couldn't complain because of the places we were going to go through. It wasn't long before we passed through the first town, Revelstoke, where we got some gas and continued through the mountains. As we cruised through the mountain highway, we took in the views around us before making our first stop at the giant cedar forest, where we walked through the central BC forest, covered in a mixture of ferns and cedars. From here, it was up and into the pass, Rogers Pass specifically, where we passed through the tunnels protecting the road and headed towards the summit. Okay, this is pretty cool. So we're at Rogers Pass, which is, I believe, the highest elevation on this road for quite a long time. I come through here like twice a year, so I'm kind of used to it, but I thought you guys would like to maybe take a look, because essentially we're at the highest part of this road, and it's got some pretty good views of the mountain around us. One other thing is we're 1,300 meters. When we were doing that trail last video or last episode, we were 2,200 meters, so another 1,000 meters above this. But this still has some pretty cool views, so what I'm going to do is maybe grab a little snack and have a little break before we continue on down the road. But yeah, I'll definitely show you guys these views, because these are awesome. There's ridges all along us, and there's actually places you can go winter tour ski in the winter, something that is very hard to do here just because of the terrain and you need permits and stuff, but it's a very cool terrain to go look at. Coming down the other side of the pass, we drove into Golden, where after a quick bite to eat, we drove through the winding construction and into Alberta. Here, almost like every day this trip, we are greeted with a mid-afternoon shower as we went through the national parks before coming out to the prairies on the other side. Well, you can see that we're now out of the mountains and back into the Alberta prairies. So we're almost done our loop of BC and Alberta. With that being said, it's almost time to end the video and, well, these 5 videos in this series. So it's definitely not going to be the last off-road and overlanding adventure, but it's the last one of this series. So I thought to wrap up this video, we'd do a little bit of a conclusion of these last 4 videos because, well, it's been 4 videos of just straight adventuring. So through these last 4 videos, and 5 including this one, we first went down south Alberta into southern BC, and we camped beside a really nice creek. It took a while to get there as we left in the evening, and we drove through early night to get to our campsite, which we stayed at, and then we hit up our first off-road trail. The first trail was more of just a pass than a true off-road trail, that we eventually made it up to the peak and checked out a high elevation lake while we were up there, in which then we descended down into somewhere in the Kootenays and went down to our beach camping spot. It's really windy at that beach camping spot, so we camped a little inland and had a great time on the beach. And then when we woke up, went for a swim, and then we went and checked out our second trail. This trail was a little bit harder, but it was still lots of fun and started pushing the Forster, but it wasn't as hard as our last trail. Our last trail really pushed the Forster to its limits, and we got up to a really high elevation of 2,200 meters and got stuck a couple times in the snow. To get to that snow and get to that trail, we got a little bit of pinstriping on our Forster as we went through the very narrow trails. And eventually we came back down to that trail, hopped on a ferry, crossed another lake, and then headed to our last camping spot of the trip, right on another lake. Here, we camped one last time, had a short little swim, and now that's where we're at right now, heading back into Alberta and back home. And there we go. The Forester is back in the driveway, which means we have made it home. So that's gonna be the end of this 5 video series on this epic overlanding and off-roading adventure into the Kootenays, but it's definitely not gonna be our last. So be sure to, if you're not subscribed, and drop a comment of where you want to see me go. I've got a couple plans for some more trips, so you'll be seeing a lot more of these with the Forester and probably the Gladiator and maybe Adrian's Crosstrek. But we got some more mods for the Forester to do, so we'll be doing those in the next couple of videos. A little sneak peek is that those right beside me, those might be going on the Forester, but I'm not going to show you them because you're going to just have to wait and see. But that's going to be it for today and this series, so that's going to be all. So peace out and stay humble.